I never thought I'd learn to read lies the way other people read menus. Quick, effortless, automatic. But that's what the last months turned me into, a man who notices every pause, every inhale, every half-second delay before a simple answer. I didn't plan to become this version of myself. It just happened slowly like rust. You don't see it until the metal is already ruined. The first time I felt something was off with Emily, it wasn't some dramatic moment. No lipstick on a collar, no stranger's name glowing on her phone. It was a laugh. Too soft, too forced, too careful. She came home late that evening, said she'd stayed for a quick drink with coworkers. I didn't question it. But when I asked who exactly she went with, she gave me that laugh, thin, guarded, and wrong. And my stomach tightened like a fist. I told myself I was imagining things. Work had been eating me alive, and stress twists your perception. But the truth is, I felt something shift that day. Like a floorboard giving way under your foot, subtle, but enough to make you stop. The next detail came 3 days later. I noticed her changing the password on her phone. She did it casually, as if I wouldn't see her thumb flying across the screen. She angled the phone away, not dramatically, just enough to look natural. But it wasn't natural. Emily used to leave her phone everywhere. The bathroom counter, the kitchen table, sometimes even in the car. Now it never left her hand, like an extension of her body. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend, the kind who sees ghosts in every shadow. I'd always been proud of the trust between us. For 5 years, I didn't once question her loyalty. She used to joke that I was almost too trusting. Maybe she was right. Still, I tried to push it aside. I tried to be rational. But then came another sign. Saturday morning. She was in the shower, her phone buzzing on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. I swear I didn't even move toward it. I just looked at the screen lighting up. The name was hidden, locked behind the notification setting she changed recently. But the preview line showed something short and sharp. Same time. No emojis, no context. Just 2 words. My heartbeat thudded painfully in my neck. It wasn't proof. Not really. People text that for harmless things all the time. But something inside me went cold, like a curtain being pulled over a window. When Emily walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, steam rising behind her, I tried to act normal. But she noticed the phone vibrate again and shot toward it faster than I'd ever seen. She grabbed it so quickly the charger nearly snapped out of the socket. "Who's that?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She smiled that same thin, careful smile and said, "Just Claire. She wants to meet later." Claire, her coworker, married, busy, and definitely not the type to text at 9 in the morning on a Saturday about same time. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But inside something twisted again. The next week was a slow, quiet avalanche. More guarded smiles. More vague explanations about staying late at work. New clothes she insisted were just on sale. A sudden obsession with going to the gym after work. Even though she used to hate sweating, she'd come home smelling like a mix of perfume and a soap I didn't recognize. The thing that really pushed me over the edge happened on a Tuesday night. I woke up at 2:14 a.m. to the sound of her phone vibrating. The screen lit up the dark room. Emily, who claimed she had been exhausted, didn't even stir. I turned my head just slightly enough to see the outline of the message on the lock screen. Another hidden name. Another short line. Can't stop thinking about. Earlier, my chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I felt this burning pressure right under my ribs, like something had punctured me. I wanted to shake her awake, demand an explanation, break the phone in half, anything. But my body froze. I just stared, letting the message burn itself into my memory. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I lay still, listening to her breathing, wondering how long she had been lying to me, how long I'd been living with someone who was already slipping away. In the morning, she acted like nothing happened, kissed me on the cheek, told me she'd be home a bit late, said they had a team meeting. I nodded again because I didn't trust myself to speak that by noon. I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I kept replaying the text. Can't stop thinking about her here. Every word felt like a blade scraping inside me. I needed clarity. Something real. Something I could hold in my hands. That evening, my chance came accidentally. She left her laptop open on the kitchen table while taking a shower. I never touched her devices before. I never needed to. But something dragged me toward it. Anger, fear, instinct. I don't know. My hand shook as I lifted the screen. Her email was open. Not a suspicious email, just the inbox. But on the left side, under the usual folders, was one I had never noticed. Archive to. It was small, almost hidden. I clicked it. The folder was empty. No emails, not a single one. But the size indicator said 2.4 gigabytes used up. My blood ran cold. You don't hide 2.4 gigabytes of nothing. Before I could scroll further, the bathroom door opened. I snapped the laptop shut and took a step back like I'd been burned. Emily walked in, wrapped in a towel again, water still dripping from her hair. She looked at me for half a second, too long, too suspiciously, and then at the laptop. Her eyes narrowed a bit. Not anger, not confusion, something worse. A flash of guilt she tried to bury instantly. My heart hammered so loud I thought she could hear it. What are you doing? She asked, voice calm but stiff. Nothing, I said. Just looking for the charger. She didn't believe me. I didn't believe myself. The silence between us grew heavy, thick, almost suffocating. She grabbed the laptop and held it against her chest like I was a threat. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid I might find out the truth. I felt something in me crack, not fully, not painfully yet, but like the first snap in a dam right before the water bursts through. That night, while she pretended to sleep beside me, I lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail from the last month. The text, the phone, the gin, the new clothes, the lies. And the empty folder holding 2.4 gigabytes of secrets. By dawn, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This wasn't imagination. Emily was hiding something from me, something big, something she was terrified I'd discover. And I was done pretending not to see it. By Monday, I wasn't the same person. Something inside me had changed. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was alert, sharpened, awake in a way that felt unnatural. Every small sound made me tense. Every notification on her phone shot an electric sting down my spine. I hated the version of myself I was becoming, but I couldn't stop. Not now. I needed the truth, and she was doing everything possible to make sure I never got close to it. That morning, she left the house earlier than usual. She moved quickly, almost too quickly, grabbing her bag, her keys, her phone, barely looking at me. Her goodbye kiss landed somewhere near my cheek but felt like a formality, a performance, something she did out of habit, not affection. When the door closed behind her, the silence in the apartment felt like it was pressing on my chest. For the first time in weeks, I didn't go to work. I sat on the couch, hands clasped, staring at the spot where her laptop had been the night before. The image of that hidden folder wouldn't leave my mind. I could feel it in my bones. Whatever she was hiding was in there. But the laptop was with her now. She made sure of that. Around noon, I got up, grabbed my jacket, and walked outside. I didn't have a plan. My body moved on autopilot, driven by instinct more than thought. I ended up near her office building. I stayed across the street, leaning on a lamppost, pretending to scroll my phone. She wasn't inside. Or at least, she hadn't walked in through the main doors. I watched for nearly an hour, scanning the entrance every time someone walked in or out. Nothing, no sign of her. When she finally appeared, she was walking from the opposite direction, from a side street, not the parking lot she normally used. Beside her was a man, tall, dark hair, athletic build, wearing a fitted shirt and a jacket too nice for a regular office day. He was talking, leaning just slightly toward her, and she was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Loose, natural, warm. Warm in a way she hadn't been with me in a long time. My jaw tightened so hard my teeth hurt. I pressed myself behind the lamppost, but it was pointless. They were too wrapped up in their conversation to notice anything around them. He said something. She laughed, really laughed. Loud enough that it hit me from across the street, and then he touched her arm. Just a quick, gentle brush of his fingers over her sleeve, but she didn't pull away. She looked at him like it was completely normal, like it was familiar. Something inside me twisted. Anger, fear, humiliation. All of it hit me at once. Maybe they were co-workers, sure. Maybe they met outside for lunch. Maybe it was nothing, but I didn't believe that anymore. Not with the texts, not with the new password, not with her hiding files, not with her lying about where she was. I watched them walk into the office together, side by side, too close. I stayed there another 20 minutes, breathing through the shaking that wouldn't stop. Cars passed, people walked by. The world kept moving, but I stood still, trying to figure out who the hell that man was. By the time I left, I wasn't confused anymore. I was determined. That night, Emily came home later than usual. She walked in with a plastic bag. Groceries, she said, though it only had 2 items. Her hair was messier than normal, like she'd run fingers through it repeatedly. She avoided my eyes. I stayed quiet, watching her move around the kitchen. She dropped her keys twice. She kept checking her phone, even when no notifications appeared. Whatever she was hiding was eating at her. Good. Let it eat. After dinner, she went to shower. The moment the water turned on, I grabbed her bag. Not to dig through it, I wasn't there yet, but because something felt off about its weight. It was too light, too empty. I unzipped it carefully. Inside were only 3 things: her wallet, a hairbrush, and a small bottle of perfume I didn't recognize. The scent was stronger, sweeter than the one she normally wore. She never used this one with me. Why was she wearing it now? When I heard the water stop, I zipped the bag back and placed it exactly where it had been. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, waiting. Emily walked out in her towel again, phone in hand. She glanced at me, immediately sensing something in my expression. "What?" she asked. I shook my head. "Nothing." She didn't buy it. I could tell. She opened her mouth like she wanted to ask something else, then changed her mind. She grabbed her clothes and turned away, her movements stiff. That night, she didn't touch me, didn't come close, didn't even turn toward me when she slept. And the distance felt physical, like a wall growing between us. The next day, I followed her again, not because I wanted to, I hated myself for it, but because I needed to know. I needed something solid, something undeniable, something that would justify the storm tearing through my chest. She left work early, at least earlier than she said she would. I watched her through my windshield as she walked across the lot. She didn't get into her car. Instead, she crossed the street and headed toward a cafe. And then I saw him again, the same man. This time, he was waiting for her inside. When she walked in, he stood up slightly, like he had been expecting her. She smiled in a way I didn't recognize, soft, excited, alive. Alive in a way she wasn't with me. She sat across from him, leaning forward. Their knees almost touched under the table. They spoke quietly, too quietly for me to hear. At one point, she reached toward him, brushing something off his sleeve. Too comfortable, too intimate. My heartbeat thudded against my ribs like a fist beating at a door. 15 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. Their coffees sat untouched. They weren't there to drink. They weren't there to catch up. They were there because they couldn't stay away from each other. When she placed her hand on his, the smallest movement, gentle, quick, but unmistakable, I felt something collapse inside me. Like the final support beam holding the dam had snapped clean in half. I couldn't stay. I couldn't breathe. I walked out, hands shaking so badly I could barely open the car door. I didn't go home. I didn't know where to go. I just drove, street after street, block after block. until the city blurred through my windshield. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Every thought kept looping. How long? Why him? Why lie? What did he give her that I didn't? By the time I finally stopped the car, it was dark. I don't even remember parking. My head felt packed with noise, static, too much pressure, and nowhere to put it. I leaned back in the seat, exhaling shakily. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This wasn't guessing. I had seen enough to know Emily wasn't just hiding something. She was hiding in the man in the cafe, the man she walked with, the man she touched, the man she looked at with warmth she hadn't shown me in months. But the real punch came the moment I got home. Her car was already in the driveway. She had beaten me back. When I walked inside, she was sitting on the couch, staring at the door like she had been waiting. Her phone was in her hand. Her fingers were tense around it. Her eyes flicked up to mine. Something was different. Fear, worry, guilt. Where were you? She asked. Her tone was too sharp, too quick. I swallowed, the bitterness rising in my throat. Out. With who? The irony of that question nearly made me laugh. Almost no one, I said. She didn't believe me. I didn't believe her. We stood there, two people living in the same space, but occupying completely different worlds. She stood up slowly. Did you go through my things? No. Silence. Heavy, accusing. She stepped closer. You've been acting weird. I met her gaze. So have you. Her face twitched, just a tiny movement, almost invisible, but I saw it. She blinked, looked away, then back at me. I'm tired, she said quietly. And just like that, she walked past me and went to the bedroom, leaving the air between us thick with unspoken truths. I didn't follow her. I could in single quotes t. Instead, I sat on the couch in the dark, replaying the cafe scene over and over. The way she leaned toward him, the smile, the touch, the warmth. I had seen enough to know she was slipping away from me, but not enough to confront her. Not yet. Not until I had something undeniable, something she couldn't talk her way out of, couldn't explain away, couldn't twist into something innocent. And as the clock ticked deeper into the night, one thing became painfully clear. Tomorrow, I would get that proof, or I would break trying. The next morning, I woke with a heaviness in my chest that felt almost physical, like someone had placed a concrete block on top of me while I slept. I didn't remember falling asleep. I must have passed out from exhaustion somewhere between 3 and 4 in the morning. When I opened my eyes, sunlight was leaking through the blinds, drawing bright lines across the living room floor. I hadn't slept in the bedroom. I hadn't even tried. Emily was already gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Her keys weren't on the hook. But something was different. She hadn't made breakfast the way she usually did when she left early. There was no note, no quick be home late, no nothing. Almost like she didn't want me to know anything about her day. Fine. I didn't need her to tell me anymore. I would find out on my own. I got up, splashed water on my face, and grabbed my jacket. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew I wouldn't spend another day sitting in the dark twisting myself into knots. I needed something real, something solid. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls, no signs that she had even thought about me. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting my lungs. I drove without thinking, letting instinct steer the wheel. After a few minutes, I found myself parking several blocks away from her office. I didn't want to be obvious. I didn't want her to know I was anywhere near her. I walked the rest of the way, keeping to the opposite side of the street, watching through the glass entrance. People went in. People came out. But she wasn't there. At least, not through the front doors. Just like yesterday. My pulse quickened. Something inside me tightened. The pattern was too clear to ignore now. If she wasn't entering the building normally, that meant she was meeting him again somewhere else. I circled the block, scanning every side street, every cafe, every spot where two people could try to hide from the world. And then I saw it, her jacket. She was walking fast, head down, hair tied differently than usual, like she didn't want to be recognized. She checked her phone every few steps, biting her lip, glancing around. And then he appeared, the sane man. He stepped out from behind a corner like he had been waiting for her. She looked up at him, and the expression on her face wasn't confusion or surprise. It was relief, a kind of ease that twisted a knife deep inside my chest. They didn't hug, they didn't touch, but they stood close enough that I knew everything I feared was real. He said something. She laughed quietly. I moved closer, staying behind a parked SUV, heart pounding so hard I felt it in my fingertips. I wanted to hear what they were saying, but they kept their voices low. Then they started walking again together toward the back exit of the office building. He opened the door for her. She slipped inside, and just before the door closed, he rested his hand on the small of her back, a small gesture, but intimate. Too intimate. My stomach dropped. I needed to know who he was. After they disappeared inside, I walked to the spot where they had been standing and pretended to check my phone while scanning the nameplate directory next to the door. Maybe I'd get lucky. Maybe his name would jump out at me. I scanned every department, every list of employees, and then I saw it. Marcus Hale, Senior Project Planner. Marcus. The name hit me like a punch. The image flashed in my mind, the text on her phone weeks ago, same time. Marcus. It fit. I took a shaky breath and stepped back, trying to gather myself. The humiliation rising in my throat tasted almost metallic. She wasn't just seeing someone, she was seeing someone at work, someone she spent hours with every day, someone she clearly trusted more than me. I needed proof, not assumptions. Not half-seen conversations. Proof. I walked around the building again, searching for any sign of them. After several minutes, I found a maintenance door that had been left slightly ajar. I slipped inside quietly, moving down a narrow hallway lined with pipes and old equipment. Voices echoed ahead. Hers. He's. My skin went cold. I pressed myself against the wall and moved slowly, step by step, until the voices grew clearer. I didn't want to hear them. I didn't want to listen. But I had no choice, not anymore. You shouldn't leave early today, Marcus was saying. He'll notice. I know, Emily whispered back. But yesterday he looked at me like he knew something. My breath caught. Marcus sighed. You need to be careful. I am, she said. I hate lying. I hate sneaking around. Then stop, he said gently. Just tell him. I can't, she said quickly. Too quickly. Not yet. He stepped closer. I could hear their footsteps shift. Emily. She exhaled shakily. He's not stupid, Marcus. I think he suspects. He's been watching me, asking questions. He answered quietly, but his words carried clearly enough. So, what do you want to do? And then there was a silence, long, heavy, suffocating. I felt my chest tighten so hard it hurt. Finally, she spoke. I don't know. I closed my eyes. The words were, knife, not I want him, not I love him, not I can't lose him, just I don't know. As if I was a choice she was unsure about. I stayed frozen there for what felt like minutes, listening to the faint shifts of their footsteps, the low hum of their conversation. I didn't dare move. I didn't dare breathe too loudly. Every muscle in my body was tight, burning. Finally, the door in front of them opened. A gust of fresh air and office noise filtered through. Their voices faded. They were gone. When I stepped into the hallway they had been in, I saw something on the ground. A small, folded piece of paper. I picked it up. It wasn't a note. It was a printed calendar. A meeting schedule. To names circled in pen. Emily Carter, Marcus Hale, and on multiple days. Written in small handwriting at the bottom. After hours, RM 214. I felt everything inside me sink. Room 214. After hours. This was it. The proof I needed. Proof they met regularly, secretly, after work, alone. My throat tightened. My hand shook. I folded the paper carefully and slid it into my jacket pocket. I wasn't done. Not yet. I needed more. Something direct. Something she couldn't deny. I moved quickly down the hall, following the signs toward room 214. I didn't know if they had gone there together right now, but if they had, I was done hiding. I needed to see it with my own eyes. When I rounded the corner, I stopped dead. The door to room 214 was slightly open. Just slightly, like someone had forgotten to close it fully. My heart hammered in my ears. I stepped closer, each footstep silent, careful, controlled. I placed my hand against the cool metal of the door and leaned in just enough to see through the narrow gap. And then I saw them, not kissing, not touching, but standing close to close. Emily's face was tilted up toward him, her expression torn, vulnerable, soft in a way I hadn't seen in months. Marcus stood just inches away, his brow furrowed like he was trying to read her thoughts. "Tell me what you want," he whispered. She closed her eyes, exhaled slowly, painfully. I don't know," she said again. That was enough, more than enough, because it meant she considered him. It meant he wasn't some random coworker or one-time mistake. He was an option, and I was no longer the only one. I stepped back, breathing hard, fighting the urge to kick the door open. But I didn't. Not yet. I needed more than emotion. I needed evidence. When they moved deeper into the room out of view, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and took a picture of the meeting schedule. Then I aimed the camera through the gap and snapped several photos of them standing together, close enough that there was no version of reality where this looked innocent. My hands were trembling so badly the camera nearly slipped out after the last photo. I walked away, not fast, not dramatically, just empty. I left the building through the back door, my footsteps slow, heavy, deliberate. Outside, the sunlight felt too bright, the air too sharp, the world too loud. I had the proof, I had the clarity, I had the truth, but instead of relief, all I felt was a deep, crushing hollowness spreading through my chest, because now that I knew the truth, there was no going back. Not for her, not for us, not for me. And tonight, I would confront her. I didn't remember walking back to my car. I didn't remember turning the engine on. I didn't remember the streets or the traffic or the faces of people passing by. Everything between leaving that hallway and arriving home blurred into a single numb stretch of motion I wasn't present for. My mind kept replaying one thing. Emily's voice saying, "I need more time." Time for what? To choose to leave. To rewrite our entire history in her head until I became the temporary chapter she needed to close. By the time I walked into the house, I wasn't angry anymore. The anger had burned itself out somewhere along the drive. What remained was something colder, heavier, like a stone lodged behind my ribs. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten dinner 2 nights ago, where she'd smiled at me, where she'd asked about my day and touched my hand like nothing in her world was shifting. I looked at her chair, the faint impression on the cushion from her sitting there each morning, the mug she always left slightly crooked on the shelf because she never cared about aligning them, the scarf she'd thrown over the back of the chair 3 days ago, saying she'd grab it later. A life built from small details, a life I thought was ours. A life she stepped out of each time she walked toward him. I waited for her to return, not to yell, not to explode, not to ask why. I needed only one thing now, clarity. She arrived an hour later than usual, entering the house quietly, like someone rehearsing guilt. She didn't see me at first. She went straight to the hallway mirror, adjusted her hair, then froze when she spotted my reflection behind her. "Hey," she said, voice just a little too soft. "You're home early." "I've been home all day." Her eyes flicked toward mine in the mirror. She registered something, fear, or realization, or maybe just the understanding that whatever script she'd prepared wouldn't help her now. She turned around slowly. "Is everything okay?" "No," I said. "Sit." She hesitated, then pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. Her fingers linked together tightly on the table, knuckles pale. She already knew. Maybe not the details, but she felt the shift. She felt the end. I studied her face. The woman I had loved for years. The woman I believed I understood completely. And yet here we were, separated by something she'd done in silence, behind hallways and locked doors and whispered conversations. I saw you, I said. With him? She didn't lie. Not immediately. Not the way she had before. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her shoulders rose on a shaky inhale. Where? She asked quietly. At your building. The back lot. The project wing. Her eyes fluttered shut for a second, like the truth hit her harder than she expected. When she opened them again, there was no denial left in her. You weren't supposed to be there, she whispered. And you weren't supposed to deal with him. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to happen. That's what everyone says. Her voice cracked. I'm not everyone. No, I said. You're the woman who told me she loved me while spending her lunch breaks with someone else. She flinched. I kept my voice steady, not raised, not emotional, just the plain, unvarnished truth. How long? I asked. She looked down. A few months. The timeline hit me like a blunt impact to the chest. I felt it physically, like the air ripped out of the room. Why him? I forced out. She shook her head. I don't know. Don't say that. She swallowed again. It wasn't planned. We worked late on a project. We talked a lot, and I started feeling something I shouldn't have. And instead of stopping, you let it grow. Her eyes filled. I didn't want to hurt you, but you did. She squeezed her hands together. I thought I could manage it. I thought it would fade. People don't fade, I said. Loyalty fades. Honesty fades. Commitment fades. That's what you were hoping for. She wiped her cheek quickly, as if she didn't want me to see the tear. Too late for that. Do you love him? I asked. She paused. Too long. Far too long. I don't know, she whispered. I exhaled slowly. That was the moment everything settled. The moment something inside me finally gave up holding the weight it had been carrying for months. Because I don't know is worse than no. I don't know means she's already imagining the possibility. I stood up. She stood too. Please, can we talk about we just did? No, she said desperately, taking a step toward me. Please, we can fix this. I can end it. I can. You should have ended it before it began. Her breath hitched. We're done. She whispered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I didn't throw anything. I just said the truth. Yes, we're done. She reached for my arm instinctively, but I stepped back. Something in her face cracked, not the polished expression she'd been wearing for weeks, but the raw, unfiltered devastation of someone who realized too late what they've destroyed. I didn't want to lose you, she said. You already did. Silence settled between us, thick, final, unmistakable. I grabbed my jacket. Wanted keys. I didn't pack anything else. I didn't need to. I'd come back another day when she wasn't here. When I reached the door, she spoke again, soft, broken. Wait, please. Tell me something. I paused without turning. Tell me when it was over for you, she whispered. I closed my eyes for a moment. When you hesitated, I said, whether you love him. The truth hit her harder than any accusation. I walked out, closing the door behind me with a quiet click. Not a slam. Not a dramatic exit. Just the final sound of something ending the way it should have ended months ago. Outside, the air felt different, cleaner, colder, honest. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, my chest expanded fully. I could breathe. Not easily, not painlessly, but freely. I sat in the car for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, letting the reality settle. I didn't lose her today. I lost her the day she chose someone else. Today, I just stopped pretending otherwise. I turned the key and drove away. No plan. No destination. Just forward. Away from the lie. Toward whatever came next. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it.